These are tough people. They know what they're doing, and they're great, and they've done a great job. You're so worried about the Thanksgiving holiday for them. They are so proud to be representing our country on the border, where if you look at what's happening, Mexico, the people from Tijuana are saying, wow, these are tough people. They're fighting us. They're in fistfights all over the place. These are tough people that are coming in. Now I understand they have 500 people that have been designated as, let's put it in a nice word, criminals. And these are the people that are coming in. No, you don't have people coming in. The order today is not, we can get around that very easily. What I do say, Ninth Circuit is, it's very unfair when everybody files their case in the Ninth Circuit. They file it for a reason. As far as the troops, they are proud to be on the border. They are proud to be defending our nation. And we're not letting people in. It's called catch and detain. It's not called catch and release like it has been for many years. For many years, they called it catch and release. They don't call it that anymore. And our soldiers are doing an incredible job.
Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts firing back a bit at President Trump for his comments about an Obama judge ruling against his asylum ban. Justice Roberts saying, quote, "We do not have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges or Clinton judges. What we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level best to do equal right to those appearing before them. That independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for." Let's bring in James Trusty, former Justice Department prosecutor, and he's an IFRA law partner, and his name is, we're going to call him Jim Trusty here from here on out, but his official name is James. Tell me a little bit about, at the Justice Department and in the judiciary, the Chief Justice's role in overseeing that independent judiciary and why he might have made a comment like he did today.
Well, look, I think it's a very fair comment by the Chief Justice. I mean, it is important that he shows loyalty to the institution, to the judiciary, that he shows that it's something that's really not limited to Donald Trump in terms of addressing this issue. I mean, I've seen for years that every time there's a newspaper article about a judicial ruling, it implicates politics by saying, who appointed this person? And the reality is you're hoping for an independent judiciary that's not wedded to political thoughts. Even if they have very active political thoughts in their private lives, they're supposed to be judges. And I think Justice Roberts' comment is a fair critique or a fair comment for all of us, not just in response to what the president said.
And the president was saying, in his latest comments, he was talking about a Ninth Circuit decision that said that he is wrong on his desire to change how somebody would request asylum in the country. That will continue to go through the court system. It might be overturned, or it might not.
Right. I mean, look, totally understand the frustration the administration would have when it comes to dealing with the immigration issue. I mean, it's not like this is new that we have serious flaws with the statutory scheme or the enforcement resources or the politics of it. But the frustration here, to me, doesn't appear all that well borne out. I mean, there's a black letter piece of law in the statute that says it doesn't matter where the asylum seeker enters the country. And although there's a lot of discretion for the president to enforce and to create rules and regulations, this didn't seem like a crazy Ninth Circuit opinion when it came out and said that's just a separation of powers issue. So it'll keep going through the court, and it could end up at the Supreme Court, although I think that's always a fool's bet to assume it will. But I'm not sure that 7 Justice Kavanaughs or 9 Justice Kavanaughs and on the bench is going to make a difference in terms of how they read this particular issue. I think it's a very uphill issue for the administration.
All right, well, that just happened, but I did want to get your take on the news from yesterday about the president asking if it's possible for the Justice Department to prosecute Hillary Clinton, James Comey, maybe others. Take a listen to Alan Dershowitz from Fox and Friends this morning.
It's not an impeachable offense, but it's a wrong thing to do. It's just each side trying to weaponize anything they can find and criminalize. You don't like what something did in America today politically? Oh, let's prosecute. Let's go after them. Lock her up, impeach. That's not the way to go. If you don't like what people have done, run against them. Use political weapons. Do not use the criminal justice system.
So, Jim, according to that report, the president made the request. Don McGahn, the president's White House counsel at the time, tapped the brakes on it and said, sir, that's not something we can do here. Your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I like what Alan said. I mean, so go ahead and call me Alan from now on. No, I thought he made a good point. And look, the reality is anybody that's been around the Department of Justice realizes it's kind of a different institution than some of the other departments of federal government. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I just mean the stakes are so huge that you really want a very independent and vibrant and free-thinking group that's apolitical in its outlook. And maybe that's naive, but that should be the goal. And so when you hear anyone, and I don't think this is limited to President Trump in his recent understandable frustrations, but over the last 10 years, you'll hear moments that sound as if politicians assume that the Department of Justice should just be a Praetorian Guard. They should be a political weapon to use against enemies or potential enemies. And anyone that's really thinking through this on the long run should bristle at that notion. It should be an independent, very tough-minded but fair-minded institution. And I think it's absolutely right for Alan Dershowitz to say, you know, we have to have other solutions to complaints. I
want to also get your take on this, that the president's lawyers turned in the president's answers to Mueller on the questions that they decided to answer. Former Watergate Task Force prosecutor John Sally had some thoughts on this. Take a listen to that.
I don't think that the special counsel is entitled to any answers from a person they're investigating. I mean, I represent people all the time who are being investigated. We never give a statement, and prosecutors do their job. They continue a thorough investigation. They draw their conclusions without the benefit of answers from the person they're investigating. I think they're getting more than they ordinarily would.
Has the president already gone over and beyond what was necessary?
Well, in a sense, but this is a creature of compromise. This is not a situation where the president was compelled independently by law to give written answers. This is a series of negotiations that have culminated in this type of arrangement. It's a favorable arrangement for the president, to be sure. If you have a client who is being told that you're a subject, not a target, but a subject, and that we just want to get some written responses, in a lot of ways, although you have to be careful and have to scrutinize it, it feels like checking a box. It feels like, hey, they're going to move on. My guy is almost out of harm's way. And the idea that the president is going to write something in there that gets him indicted is fairly ludicrous, right? I don't think there's any likelihood that there'll be this confession on paragraph 16 that becomes the subject of an indictment someday.
Right. Well, that is why we call you our trusty lawyer. Jim Trusty, have a good Thanksgiving. Thank you.
All right. You too, Dan.